And now two guys who survived a zombie attack, Aaron and Jonathan.
Howdy, and welcome to episode 90 of In the Rabbit Hole's Urban Survival Podcast. In this episode, we wrap up the Surviving X series with part 3, Surviving the Zombie Apocalypse. We're your hosts, Aaron
and Jason.
And you are in the rabbit hole, safe and sound. Okay, and today wraps up part 3 of Surviving X. And today we're surviving zombies. So I guess first we have to start off with actually explaining what zombies are, which I didn't realize when we were just at dinner.
Yeah.
That you don't know what zombies are.
I'm a real survivalist. I don't have time to read all this sci-fi bullshit.
A real survivalist.
Every time y'all talk about it, I'm like, whatever. It's like, oh, crackheads? Those are zombies.
Well, yeah, I mean, in essence, that's what it is. I mean, zombies are
bath salts, whatever.
Bath salt zombies. So yeah, there's a bath salt zombie epidemic that is what we're surviving today.
Right? Dude, 12-gauge stops them just as good as anything else, sir.
True, but I think in sci-fi, the issue that you run into is there's almost an immortality to zombies.
Right.
And I think this will be good for anybody that maybe doesn't really keep up with what zombies are.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Catch me up with the myth of the zombies. Because, I really don't know. I know it's like Unwalking Dead, right? The Walking Dead.
It's The Walking Dead.
Okay, so
and hence the name of that TV show, The Walking Dead.
Yes.
So here's what it is. In the most general terms, zombies are in sci-fi are an almost immortal creature. It's typically viewed as some kind of virus has taken place. So it's in that respect, we have a pandemic has broken out.
I get the gist of that.
Huh?
I get the gist of that. Okay.
And as we were talking about at dinner, because we did a quick run through at dinner of what is it? And it's, in the most general terms, it's something has caused all of the higher functions of the brain to shut down. And all you're left with are the most basic animalistic instincts. And traditionally, zombies are left with just an insatiable hunger and rage. And then you can have fast zombies, which are zombies that can run and jump and often have superhuman strength. Or you can have the more traditional zombies, which is just kind of this shuffling idiot.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I can relate that back to, so some PCP hopped up, junkie. Okay, fair enough.
Okay, all right. So that's basically what you have. And the mainstream is that body shots don't count.
Okay.
Lobbing off limbs don't count. You have to kill the brain. That's the only way to kill a zombie.
All right.
So
chopping off the head, blowing off the head.
Chopping off the head in some circles is how you kill a zombie. In other circles, it's a shot to the head. You have to actually destroy the brain.
See, this is part of the reason why I had a problem with the whole zombie, myth thing or the stories.
Yeah.
It's not solidified like at least vampires. Vampires, you got set rules. Werewolves, you have set rules. Yeah. Zombies, it's like whatever you decide is going to be your zombie. It's like, what? That's not...
Well, and that is what drives me nuts, too. It goes back to, like we were talking a minute ago, you have fast zombies, you have slow zombies, you have all these goofiness. And I think for today's purposes, you and I are going to define what is a freaking zombie so that we can have some context of what we're talking about, some parameters at least.
Fair enough.
So that we're not...
structure here.
Yeah, we're going to have
the rules of the game, right?
We're going to have some structure to this shenanigan BS. So, for ease of use, we'll make them slow zombies, because quite frankly, fast zombies scare the crap out of me.
Fair enough. Much harder to hit. Yeah, I get that.
Well, you know, and it goes back to, it's like that time we were taking that tactical class together.
Right.
And we were talking about, or we weren't, the instructor was talking about the myth of shooting somebody and them just dropping dead right there.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, no, that doesn't happen. He goes, or not often. And he was going on to tell us a bunch of stories where he had been involved in, when he was a beat officer, and he was involved in high priority shootings, or I don't know what you'd call it, basically, where it was somebody like what you were talking about was hopped up on something. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, there was an instance where there was 5 cops shooting at the guy. One of us blew the top of his skull off, and the guy was still shooting at us. He finally ran out of bullets and got visibly frustrated and just threw his gun on the ground and said, I give up. And he's standing there with the top of his skull blown off.
See? Zombies.
So, yeah, zombies. Yeah. But I think fast zombies we'll make it simple, and we'll just stick to slow shuffling idiots today.
Fair enough.
Which I think most of us kind of look at the rest of humanity, not necessarily survival, just in day to day. We look at everybody and go, God, man, where do all these people come from? How does their brain generate enough energy to tell their body to breathe?
Oh, bobbies. Sorry, I don't mean to make this political. Okay, sorry.
So, and I think so we've identified how to kill them. We've identified that their main driving force is trying to eat other people or eat the living.
See, that's another thing I don't get. If it's just insatiable hunger, why is it people and not like anything that's moving?
Well, I think it is anything. But by and large, people are slower than, let's say, a horse or a dog or something like that.
Fair enough.
You keep trying to make this complicated.
Hey.
Suspension of disbelief, man. That's what Surviving X is all about. So I think we have that.
Okay.
And so we now have a base understanding of what we're dealing with. We also have to cover with the other parameters are noise attracts zombies, and groups of zombies attracts more zombies.
So why don't zombies eat other zombies?
I don't know. I guess zombies taste bad.
Rotten flesh, I guess. It's dead.
Since it's dead, yeah, rotting flesh. I don't know. See, that's... I think actually there is like a 101 zombie book or something. I've never read it. Like, I usually stick to the more zombie fiction books. I haven't read into the zombie technical manuals. I actually do know, and I can't think of what the name of it is now, but there is like at least 1 or 2 books.
Us real survivalists, we're all like busy with like farm stuff and learning how to raise stuff and grow stuff and shoot stuff. Kiss my ass.
I'm doing that too. And keeping my eye on the zombies, because any day now. And that's why I have a collection of calibers. And I think that's a nice segue into the most fun part of the show.
Guns.
Yes. Which we haven't even talked. It's hysterical to me that we have a survival show. And I can't tell you the last time we did a show just on guns. But, in part, that's because we covered so much about guns.
True.
In the 3 or 4 episodes that we did on guns.
Oh, yeah. And man, in most, survival scenarios, everyone just wants to talk about guns.
Yeah.
Because that's, of course, the toy.
Yeah,
it's exactly. The guy thing. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Look what I got. Ha, ha.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we get to talk about my new toy.
Yes, we do.
It's the perfect zombie killer.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
And I think that also introduces the more technical aspects of which we had a show on the survival armory battery kind of thing a while back, about 22 12 gauge and some kind of long rifle. We can talk about those instances, definitely apply here.
Oh, definitely.
And we've talked about it a couple times, and there's an old, rather long article I wrote on the topic for people, because there's always people in the community like you that make fun of the rest of us that really dig zombies, and they're like, yeah, I love zombies. And then it's like, I'm a real survivalist. I'm out there, doing strange things to the bunnies, giving them a bloody nose, like you gave the rabbit a bloody nose today, by the way.
He wouldn't listen. Don't play with my food. Damn it.
Now, I do have to actually take a brief moment, and it's not going to be a full farm update. It's just going to be an explanation of why Jason gave one of the rabbits a bloody nose. You didn't actually give the rabbit a bloody nose. You just scared the crap out of the rabbit, and you'd cut a big hole in the bottom of its cage. So we had 6 cages that did not have the newer subterranean nesting boxes that we're using.
Right.
And we have We're probably, some of the does are a couple days away from giving birth, and some of the does are probably about a week away from giving birth. We used Sunday to get out and cut holes in the bottom of the cages to attach these subterranean nesting boxes, which surprisingly enough has never been much of an issue before, of not taking the rabbit out of the cage while we cut a big hole in it and file on it and do everything else. But we did have a young doe that pretty much went bananas. Mm-hmm. And you know what it reminded me of is when you're a kid at the circus and they have that big giant steel globe and they put motorcycles inside of it and the motorcycles get right. And so it's like going like 90 miles an hour and it's like driving on the side and it's driving on the top and then it's driving on. That's what that rabbit was like. I'm looking over. I'm like, how did the rabbit get on the ceiling of that cage? Holy crap, the rabbit's on the side of the cage. It's like Spider Bunny.
And then thump.
And then, yeah, it was that unmistakable thud. Since our cages are hanging, and luckily this has only happened a couple of times, but since our cages are hanging, we've had instances where bunnies have done a swan dive out of the cages.
Kamikaze! Ah!
And we were pretty good about it because when we cut the holes in between, when we cut the hole and when we actually attach the nesting box, we would set the nesting box over the hole.
Right. And
you were filing off the sharp edges of the hole, and I guess
it just freaked her out.
She just freaked out and went down, and I had my back turned, I just heard thud. I knew what it was. I knew it. I was like, shit, this is a rabbit loose again. The nice thing about it, though, is you'd think that these rabbits just take off running, and it's like, freedom! No. First of all, they're like, wait a minute. This concrete thing doesn't move. And I'm used to hanging cages, which have a little bit of, I got my sea legs. I'm a sea bunny because I'm a member of the In the Rabbit Hole Roving Horde Armada. I got my sea legs. And so what typically happens is the shock of hitting the ground.
That's like a 2-story drop for them.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have the next phase of, wait a minute, this isn't moving. And so the rabbits, it's a very nice thing because you get a good 10, maybe 15 seconds where the rabbit is just like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on here? And so I was able to walk over and grab the rabbit. She was scared enough, even she didn't even kick, she didn't bite, she did nothing. And then I just stuck her in my armpit. I stuck her head in my armpit because keep your hands over their eyes or something over their eyes, calm down. And then she was fine. I was sitting there petting her, or standing there petting her while you were finishing off the hole.
I think she kind of got a bit of a concussion. That's how she got the bloody nose.
Okay.
Or she hit her nose when she fell.
She must have, but that was weird. All of a sudden, I was like, I have blood on my sleeve. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, rabbit's got a bloody nose. Jason's been beating up the rabbits again because he's a serious survivalist. All right, so we got that out of the way. The explanation of why Jason's giving the rabbits bloody noses, abusing your meat,
tenderizing it,
on
the hoof, tenderizing on the hoof, man.
Not recommended.
No.
Generally not recommended. Okay, so we have slow moving, headshot.
Or decapitate, right?
Well, no, I think to make it interesting, if you decapitate him, you just have a head that's rolling around biting. So you got to kill it. It's got to be a headshot.
Okay.
You have to destroy the brain.
So sledgehammers.
Sledgehammer is certainly one way of going. And we can run through weapons real quick. We can run through unconventional weapons real quick before we get into firearms. Uh-huh. And I know we're bouncing around a little bit, but this is meant to be kind of off the cuff and just fun for anybody that's new to the show. So in zombie movies, the selection are, we have axes.
Okay.
We have a machete is probably the most common. You have samurai swords are very popular. And you have, what's another one? Chainsaws. Chainsaws I always see as stupid.
Yeah, if it's viral, that you're getting a lot of blood and brain matter. That's
throwing that. I don't see that as good. Plus, you have to have gasoline for that.
True.
And that's not how I'd want to use my gasoline. Now it looks cool and it looks good on film, I think, but I don't think I'd want to go after a zombie. I mean, if I had no other choice, sure, I'm going to do whatever I've got or use whatever I've got. But to take a chainsaw to a zombie's head, other than just that's just icky.
Okay, other than the theatrical aspect of it, from a reality standpoint, if it's got a viral type of infection,
you do not want to.
Yeah, I want some distance, or I want a nice clean cut where I can take, samurai sword would probably work beautifully.
Yeah.
Take a nice long swing out beyond arm distance. They can't scratch me. They can't do any of that stuff. So I can just whack off their head, and keep that distance. And it kind of shoves the blood that way.
Yeah.
Away from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, chainsaw.
And that's much like the show we did with Ron a while back about basic medical skills for survival, where he gave us the expression that EMS and paramedic, emergency medical, often use, which is if it's wet and sticky and not yours, don't touch it. And I think that definitely, that generally applies to everything in life, but I think that definitely applies here. If you're dealing with some kind of infectious disease, that's the last thing you want is to get covered in it. And I think we can kind of cover a thing that I brought up at dinner, which I just realized the other day how stupid it is in zombie fiction. Now, I know it's sci-fi, so there's always going to be some level suspension of disbelief. But the whole thing about in a zombie apocalypse, if everyone dies, immediately comes back, or within a certain frame of time comes back as a zombie, then they had to have already been infected. Okay. And so
I'll play along with the rules. Okay.
You'll play along. Okay, and we're going to take this one away because I think this one's stupid. I know there's some hardcore zombie fans out there that are going to get mad at me about this, but I have a real problem with this. If everyone's already infected, then why do you turn after you get bitten by a zombie, but you didn't die? See, to me, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
Was it like some weird, just too much virus for your body to handle or something? I don't know. So I'm getting rid of that one.
Okay.
I'm going to get rid of you become a zombie after you get bitten.
Well, yeah, because if that's the case, then you have no way to really protect yourself other than just bugging in and completely sealing off a room. You don't even want to go out and shoot them, because if it's airborne, you're going to turn to a zombie just out running around.
Right. So I say we get rid of the you turn into a zombie if you get bitten thing. Now, that does, as far as pandemics go, I do actually understand that. And that does have, that is applicable within the sense of pandemics, because if somebody gets infected at that point and they are about to turn, you're left with the very difficult decision of, if you're like we were talking about at dinner, if I get bitten, you have the emotional impact of you have to decide, do you shoot me right then and there, or do you wait until I turn to shoot me? Not that you should shoot people in a pandemic, unless you have to, just say. But in the context of zombies, it's a nice look on your face, like, I don't care, I just shoot. Great.
You're talking to the right guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude.
Yeah. Now I know who to stay away from in a pandemic. You're like, I know you're my friend and all, but I'm going to shoot you. Fantastic.
Great, man. You got bit. So you want it now? You want it head, chest? What do you want?
Well, we covered it does have to be in the head. So, okay. So those are other things in the unconventional realm would be arrows. And that can either be in some kind of bow or in a crossbow. You're looking at me crazy. Arrows are highly lethal.
Agreed, but we're talking about, we can't chop off his head, right?
No, but an arrow to the head presumably would do enough damage to the brain.
Okay.
We got to have a little bit of suspension of disbelief. I mean, we're talking about zombies.
Fair enough.
So, okay. All right. So
I'm getting the rules of the game down so I can play this, effectively.
Okay. Now that we have that, I think those would be, you're of course going to want a knife, but a knife as a fighting implement for zombies are not necessarily.
I don't want to be.
I don't want to be that close. No.
Not if I can, catch that virus.
Well, presumably you've already got the virus. So if you die, you're going to turn into a zombie. But I know it's complicated.
This game sucks, but okay.
All right. They should have sat you down and made you watch like a season of Walking Dead or something just to get into it first.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the real problem is that if you get that close, they can grab a hold of you, they can attack you, they can bite you and start just gnawing on you.
Okay, so I can look at this as just a bunch of predators running around.
That's exactly it. A very hard to kill predator in large numbers, where the number of human beings is constantly shrinking, and the numbers of the predators, since their human beings are turning into zombies, is constantly increasing.
Okay.
And I mean, that relates to like pandemics. That relates to any kind of socioeconomic breakdown where you're having people going from having to have not and becoming desperate and trying to take from others, and maybe even in extreme cases, eating others. I don't know.
In that situation, I'd actually want a fighting knife. If they bite me, I'm not necessarily going to die.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, and in taking that out, we could. I mean, I'm not saying you wouldn't want a fighting knife. I'm just saying that would be a last resort.
Fair enough.
I mean, at that point, a screwdriver works.
I agree.
Yeah. Any kind of
anything I can shove through the actual skull bone.
Yeah.
To scramble a little bit of brain matter.
Exactly. So I think in moving on to firearms, this is where you and I were talking about it before the show. Like, I'm a huge fan of the 308. I love the 308. To me, it is a fun round to shoot. It is my caliber of choice as far as long guns go. But in the instance of zombies, it would be the one instance where I would prefer not to have. I would actually prefer 5.56. It's 5.56, just in a very general sense, is about half the weight, so you can carry twice as much ammo. It's much easier to suppress, so you're cutting down on the noise issue of attracting zombies. And if we're just taking headshots, 5.56 is more than enough to take a zombie's head clean off. So, and it's a very accurate round.
Very true.
So,
non-winning environments, yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
and it is effective round. Out to, I would say, good 500 yards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I don't know. I think you can push to 600. I don't know that I would want to push it to. I mean, most people can't shoot.
I'm about to go. I wouldn't take a shot at 600.
No,
and I'm a fairly good shot.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either, because that raises the other issue that you get into with firearms. At that point, under these conditions, you have no idea when you're going to find more ammunition. So conservation of anything would become huge, because basically all infrastructure has shut down. You don't know when and the only time you're going to get more ammo is if you come across a stockpile of it.
Oh, right there. number 1 rules of engagement, all within 100 yards.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think for the very classic survival round of a 22, I think a 22 for zombie apocalypse is almost a perfect round. Because for close quarters, like if it's 100 yards or further, I'd rather use 5.56. But if it's 50 yards, 22 all day long. 22 is going to scramble the crap out of some brains.
Yeah, because it doesn't have enough to go through both sides of the actual skull cavity. It's going to go in one end, and it's going to sit there and bounce
around. Yeah,
and just totally turn the brain into scrambled eggs.
Right.
I can. Okay.
And it's a fairly accurate round. Mm-hmm. It's very lightweight. You can carry a lot of it.
A lot.
It is by far the easiest to suppress, as you once heard in my backyard, and gave me this funny look like, that's quieter than your pellet gun, dude. So I think that, and a 5.56. And what else do we need here? We've got the 12 gauge, and now we get to talk about your new toy, which is a Sega 12 gauge, which I'm really glad you finally bought it, because it had been driving me nuts that you kept fawning over them for years. I was like, just buy the thing. It's not like you can't afford it. Just buy it. And you're like, well, I don't know.
All right. Since we're talking about zombie situation right here, okay, we all know that 12 gauge is by hands down, period, the end, the number 1 stopping power.
Showstopper.
Yes. One shot, boom, boom, he's gone.
Yeah.
Headshot, 12 gauge, within 40 yards, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, you might even pick off a couple of side ones in the group as they're coming at you.
Yeah.
That's my number 1.
Mm.
Clip fed. Oh, bang out 10 rounds real quick. Boom, 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 boom.
Well, I think we have to explain for those listening that don't know what a Sega is. Think of how would you do it? It's
an AK-47 and a 12 gauge.
Yeah.
And you've got 10 round clips, and you can actually get a 20 round drum clip if you like. A lot of the 3-gun guys are switching to them. Think of an assault rifle in 12 gauge.
That is a perfect way of describing it.
You've got all the benefits that you would get from an assault weapon, but you've got it in a 12 gauge, which is an incredibly versatile round.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the Sega 12 gauge, they actually have a choke on it that is actually rifled.
Oh, a rifled choke.
It actually has a rifled choke, so you can slam sabot slugs in there and probably get a 3-inch group at 80 yards.
Oh wow, that's actually pretty impressive. That's rifleman standard.
That's rifleman standard. Yes, it is. And I'm doing that with a 1-ounce piece of steel.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the reason why I held out so long for that, because that's what I wanted to go to, was my a number one assault weapon because the versatility of the 12-gauge shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
You throw in just that amount of accuracy with a slug, and the fact that that's a 1 ounce piece of lead you're flinging down the at your target. The devastation power of that weapon is hands down. You just can't beat it.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched a video years ago where they showed somebody shooting at a car with 12-gauge slugs. And it was pretty much, you could count, if through car doors, the 12-gauge slug would go through one car door and come out the other side, yes. Which is not exactly ideal for urban combat situations unless it's like full-on combat. It's not exactly...
But we're talking about zombies.
We're talking about zombies. I just want to make sure that somebody that isn't really familiar with 12-gauge goes, oh, well, the slug, that sounds like the ultimate thing. Because, yeah, you're going to start... if it does go off in your home, it's going to go through most of the walls.
And it's really going to destroy a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
The beauty of a normal rifle round is it's a fairly small projectile.
Mm-hmm.
And it's used for precision. Mm-hmm. Whereas a 12-gauge, it is meant for devastation, period.
Yeah. Whether
it be the slug or buckshot or whatever you need in that type of situation. You just understand that you pull that trigger, a lot of things are going to bust up.
Yeah. I think that's a really great way of putting it. All right. So I think we've got and as far as handgun, I don't know that handgun caliber really matters. I mean, handgun caliber really doesn't matter to begin with. I don't know. In this instance, it'd probably be this really goes back to, I think, whatever you're comfortable with shooting, because you're really not talking about a huge issue with weight. Even when you get to 45 versus like a 38 or something. I mean, unless we go from 45 to a 22, and that's certainly an option. Just go straight 22 for a handgun. But I mean, we could what is it? Pick the black spots out of a fly poop all day long over it. But I mean, I really think at that point it matter them. So any handgun calibers.
Agreed. You've had a show on the newer studies that you've found on handgun caliber and their effectiveness on stopping power.
Yeah.
Okay. In our scenario, our zombie scenario.
Yeah.
I'm thinking capacity, man.
Yeah.
We're all really good with our handguns. I want capacity. My gun that I'm grabbing is my CZ Phantom. 20 rounds of 9mm full size weapon, same weight as my subcompact.
Yeah.
I want rounds in my gun.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have my daily carry SIG that's a 357, and I can swap the barrels out and make it a 9, and I get a little more. So in that instance, I mean, but that it depends on what I think, and that's a good instance for in the zombie apocalypse as far as weapons go, that having that ability to swap out barrels. And that's one of the reasons I really like the 357 and the 40 model of the SIGs. But okay, so we have the basics of what a zombie is, and we have our guns, and now we have, and here's where the really interesting part as far as bugging out versus bugging in comes into play with zombies. Because you can have a fortified shelter, but that shelter can be very easily overrun if you're making noise and doing something to attract zombies and not able to dispatch them. And also you have the issue of you don't want to waste your ammo. So if you have a small buildup, maybe if you have a small buildup or something, you have enough of a cache of 22, then you just pop a few and get them out of the way and don't let them build up. But you could have issues where maybe there is really some large roving horde of zombies and they descend upon whatever your structure is. And let's face it, I think most structures, unless you're in some kind of real office building, like in one of the older office buildings that doesn't really have much in the way of windows, and then those can easily be sealed up. I think that would be one of the few instances that you could find a structure that would be able to withstand a large number of zombies like that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
In our scenario, we're not talking about overly sophisticated, predators here.
No.
We're talking about
very simple predators.
Very simple brick wall, and they're not going to get to you.
Yeah.
I'm shooting. The first place I'm want to bug into is like a warehouse.
Yeah.
Give me solid brick walls. Sometimes I'm going to climb up on the rooftop where they can't come up and get me. Knock off all the fire escapes, and good to go. And I'm just shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah. Well, you don't even have to knock off the fire escapes because they can't climb. They're very clumsy.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah. Well, at least in the genre of zombies we're talking.
Fair enough.
Again, for those that are hardcore zombie fans, we're leaving aside the zombies that have any real dexterity other than shuffling and biting. But I think when your facility becomes overrun, then you run into the issue of you have to be able to move light, you have to move fast. And since you've had a breakdown, unless you're in the early stages of the breakdown where gasoline has not turned into varnish yet, that's the only time you're going to have gasoline.
Yeah.
So, within, say, 3 or 4 months after the zombie apocalypse, a lot of your traveling is probably going to end up being on foot. Unless you build some kind of crazy wood gas fire vehicle or something, or you've magically somehow engineered yourself a hydrogen vehicle. Not likely. I'm not doing it. I'm not that smart guy.
Right.
But so I think that's the real issue with, as far as bugging out goes, is you're largely going to be on foot for any bug out scenario. Anything after about 3 or 4 months, and that's kind of a sucky place to be.
Oh yeah.
So you have to be packed pretty light, and this goes back to the show we did about gear versus skill. And that you're really going to want as much in the way of skills as possible because that lightens your load. And the lighter your load, the faster you can move. And this is not... I don't really think I'd want to run around the zombie apocalypse with a full-on 80-pound ruck.
Oh, no.
No, I think I'd want like a 10-pound ruck. 20 pounds at the high end.
In the exact same scenario that you're talking about now, you have no form of fast transport. Okay? The last place I want to be out in is in an open area, even the woods.
Especially the woods, I think.
Yeah. Because they can come up on you within fairly close proximity, within 100 yards, without you even becoming aware of it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking staying in an urban environment and having catches.
Yeah, I like
a variety of different locations and keep moving in that same circle. Because if you're moving in that same circle, it's a typical predator, so you can observe their patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can keep moving and have all these little different catches, you can have supplies in each one of those little spots.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not having to carry around 80 pounds all the time. You can actually have 200 or 300 pounds worth of gear within short, running areas,
mm-hmm.
and knowing your entire area. Say you have like 7 or 8 office buildings or warehouses or even other homes. Well, you've got that in your certain little catch areas, and you can sit there and move and rotate and observe how their movements are in your area.
Mm-hmm.
So you can counter that by, okay, they're going to be over here in this spot at this typical time, so I'm going to move over to this catch.
Yeah.
Well, and then you'll know where they're going to be at this time, so you'll be able to move on this other catch and be able to move opposite of however their movements are.
I would agree with that. And I think the other thing, as far as moving into... Here's the assumption that most people would make, is that the urban centers would be completely overrun with zombies. And I actually have a little bit of a problem with that, because my thinking is one of the first reactions that we all assume everyone is going to immediately vacate cities, and that's where the traditional survival
mm-hmm.
roving horde comes from, is all of these people fleeing from the cities. I mean, there's also the roving horde that's a gang, that's this giant mega gang that's roving around, but it's all of the people exiting the city, which always blows my mind, because I'm like, well, okay, where are they going? But maybe they're panicking and they don't know. In one of these instances, it's all cities have fallen. So, but who knows? We'll assume that behavior of people leaving the cities stays intact. Well, the zombies are going to be on their tail, heading out of town.
Oh yeah, they're going to be chasing the prey.
They're going to be chasing the food.
Yeah, exactly.
Food's out on the highway. So, I mean, I think what's left in the cities would largely be just stragglers.
Exactly.
And I think that comes into the play where we move into community and the importance of community. And in this instance, having a group of people where you can take the abandoned vehicles and create funnels
mm-hmm.
and cordon off sections and continually cordon off larger and larger sections as you eradicate the zombies in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And creating funnels with the cars and closing off areas with the cars and creating a sealed-in community.
Oh yeah, referring back to the funnels, if these are general predators,
yeah,
you just have to use a different motivation. So, like in hunting, we'll push like all the hogs.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take the dogs and we'll chase them into this giant funnel and run them all into a pen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once they're in a pen, whatever you want to do. Well, in this situation, they're attracted to noise, right?
Right.
Okay, so you create this big giant funnel into, say, like this big giant enclosed warehouse.
Yeah, I liked this idea.
So where you can like stockpile up. Come on, I mean, there's going to be tires all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay. Used oil. Okay. Oil burns so slow. Rubber. Oh God, it just horrendously hot. It burns forever. Perfect scenario for an incinerator.
Yes.
Okay. You funnel all these guys. Build up all these barriers and funnel these guys. So you have 2 bait people. Hopefully well armed.
Or if it's just, the guys that were causing problems.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Whatever.
Use those as bait. Start attracting these guys. If it's noise, whatever, have them stand around beating on trash cans, whatever you got to do to start attracting, all these zombies over. And then you also told me in that scenario that zombies attract other zombies. So large groups of zombies attract other zombies because, I guess, it's prey oriented.
Yeah.
So we've got this one, all these guys, all of them haven't eaten in forever. So they're all going to fight each other trying to get to that one piece of meat, right?
Yeah.
They're all coming in. They're all coming. They all start getting attracted. They're all following down this little funnel that you've all created. Your community. It's just going to take a group of y'all to do this.
Yeah.
Get all of them to start coming into this one warehouse. You can pop off a couple of them that are getting a little too close. But the major horde that's coming down this funnel, get them all into this warehouse. A couple of your guys close the doors, hit a flare, boom.
And I think the beauty in zombie fiction, I think the beauty of it is that you don't even have to close the doors. You can leave the doors open and just set it on fire because they're just going to keep going in the direction the way we were. Yeah, and roaming around.
Yeah, that's so simple to almost eradicate, man.
Yeah.
Or at least you could keep the number of those hordes in a low enough number in your immediate area if you have a very tight community.
Yeah.
To keep those numbers down where you can actually hold off small packs of them fairly easily.
Yeah.
Versus this, mega giant roving horde of, slow moving zombies. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I think that would be the ultimate way to really eradicate and deal with zombies, or keep their numbers down. And that's the instance where you conserve ammo.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because you're not really going to have to shoot them. You can just incinerate them.
Yeah. And that's what you're supposed to do with the bodies anyway, because we're dealing with an infectious disease.
Exactly.
So, and I think at that point, you can actually start building up and doing something to create a community inside that isolated area that you are either continually expanding out or expanding out to the point where the size of your community is large enough to keep a watchful eye on all sectors.
You're going to have to, Red Dawn's coming out.
Yeah. When is that coming out?
I think it's next month or something like that.
Okay, awesome.
But I mean, we're of that generation where we saw the first one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's a perfect kind of scenario of the zombie apocalypse or whatever coming down. It's gonna be small groups of people bugging into a certain area, either that be up in the mountains or in an urban area or whatever, and banding together and fighting off this stuff. Well, in this type of situation, you're gonna have to know kind of guerrilla warfare.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of stems back to my catching in different small locations. Because you're going to have to move quick. You're going to have to move light. But you're going to have enough storage and basically supplies.
Yeah.
So you build up a small community, and all of y'all practice this guerrilla type warfare of being able to hit, strike, move, hit, strike, move, hit, strike, move. You can hold off vast armies.
Oh, yeah.
You can hold off large armies, sophisticated armies.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's what has happened to us a number of times.
Yes,
that's what happened to the Russians and the Afghanis. I mean, that's ultimately how we ran the Russians into the ground. Of course, it came back to bite us in the ass.
Yeah, they're running us in the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Stupid.
Yeah, but I think that is guerrilla warfare is absolutely going to be the most effective in this instance, because you're not going to want to stay in one small location, and by small, I don't mean a city block or something. I mean small, like
neighborhood.
A neighborhood, yeah, because basically you're cordoning off like a fairly large area, depending on the number of people. If you've got enough people in your group to keep an eye on all the areas and everything and to stay in communication, and still enough of a group left to be able to take care of the daily tasks. At that point, it does become guerrilla warfare, because you're having a buildup of zombies in one area. You got to dispatch with them and then get out of that area so you quit attracting them and constantly on the move. And I think this is the instance where staying put and really gardening and doing stuff like that and creating a sustainable community is really ideal in those situations, unless you run into some kind of mega horde takes over your compound or something made out of burnt tires and abandoned cars. That's the one instance.
Let me throw a spin on that. I've heard you mention that several times. But see, one of the best things about community is, number one, you're going to have several gardens.
Yeah.
And let's face it, we're going to stop mowing our lawns and taking care of stuff. So a lot of this area in our gardens is all going to be surrounded by just overgrowth.
Yeah.
So none of it's really going to look like it's. We practice permaculture anyways.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be as like it's freshly tilled or all of this stuff. It's going to look like it's really overgrown. Well, if you got several of those locations, it's not going to be a central attraction point.
Well, see, that's the nice thing about zombies is you're not attracting zombies with your garden.
True. Very true.
And that's the stupid thing that people talk about. That you always have the one guy that's like, "Oh, your garden's just going to get you killed," and it's like, no, just being alive is going to be a problem. If we're at that level of a breakdown, just being alive is a problem.
Yeah,
you don't need anything outside of being a living, breathing human being to not be a target at that, or to be a target at that point. So, but zombies don't care about gardens because they're not vegetarians. So they eat of the long pork. So that runs into, that's no big deal. You just have to be, I think your point about having small gardens or turning just basically any available piece of dirt into a garden at that point is the best idea. Which, I mean, personally, St. Augustine, these beautifully manicured St. Augustine lawns are really kind of silly to begin with. I mean, I have one in my front yard and I can't stand it, but the idea of going back to having and using permaculture where it really is like an even displacement, and it is actually can be done in a very attractive manner. That point where you're rebuilding some sense of stability and some sense of sustenance and doing something to hopefully eradicate the issue and going back to the guerrilla warfare and unconventional methods of dealing with them, because you're really trying to conserve ammunition at this point for emergencies. So constantly finding new and creative ways of, which could become a whole game. I mean, that's how you keep yourself entertained in the zombie apocalypse, is thinking of new and exciting ways of killing zombies.
Oh yeah, just mass slaughter. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you came up with the idea of this kind of burn warehouse thing, and I just thought that was great. And I was like, yeah, and you could throw in tires in there, and you'd keep the fire going for forever, and you just keep attracting zombies into it somehow, and you just keep roasting those jerks. But I guess that's how you keep yourself entertained after the zombie, is constantly thinking of new and exciting big ways of getting rid of the zombie. So this idea that you're going to seal yourself off in some kind of bunker, you can't do that for forever.
No.
I mean, I'm sure it in some way it is possible, but I don't know anyone, and whether we're talking about zombies or anything else, I don't know anyone that is financially liquid enough to be able to go out tomorrow or even accomplish this perhaps in the next 5 to 10 years. Okay, I may know one guy, but that's a very unique instance. Somebody that could go out tomorrow and be like, yeah, build me a, underground lair and make it all James Bondy. For the rest of us,
here's a dose of reality, okay?
Yeah.
We're going to have enough supplies that maybe last us a couple of weeks.
Right.
After that, you're going to have to start going out and you're going to have to start foraging. Okay? That's why we emphasize skills and having different locations for different resources, say water, food, so on and so forth. At least have 3. Laws of 3. In reality, that's what's going to happen. You're going to bug in, all hell's going to break down. You're going to try to make it as far as you can, but none of our situations or none of our bunkers or bug in locations are going to be self-sustaining.
No,
you're going to have to eventually venture out and start building back up your supplies.
Right. Unless you're talking about a military installation that was specifically designed, like Cheyenne Mountain, something like that, where they can get, where they've got a water supply and they've got all that, and maybe they've got a year or 5 years or whatever. I don't know. I'm not privy to that information, obviously, but you're still talking about a very finite amount of time, no matter who you are, who you're with, that you could actually stay underground.
Yeah. In reality, ain't happening.
Ain't happening. No. And what would be the point? I mean, you go stir crazy.
I go stir crazy just spending a weekend in the house.
Yeah. Well, you're nutty, but no, actually, I do too. Although these days we both have so much going on, I could actually use a shut-in weekend. That would be amazing.
Actually, finish a book. Amazing.
Yeah.
Watch a damn zombie TV show. Come on.
Exactly. You know, just finishing a book and not just having to skim the book so I can get the basics out of it. It's like really enjoy it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You know, I think, and that's something after the zombie apocalypse that something that will probably really come back into fashion, which would be sitting down to read a book. Because there's not going to be much else to do besides killing zombies. Well, and perhaps adult activities. We've joked about before what a hurricane baby is. But I think all regions have some kind of hurricane baby. Up north, they have blizzard babies, but I think we could even joke about the roving horde armada here for a minute about the sailboat, because the problem with that is it really wouldn't matter. Then you're left with the issue. It doesn't matter where you go, you're screwed, or you cannot run away from the issue unless the roving horde armada really is going to go find a deserted island that we can set up shop. But honestly, that's kind of far-flung and extraordinarily complicated to accomplish, even if it really was, you know, in what you and I were joking about one day about sailboats and everything else. It's like, yeah, that's a fun idea, but when you get there, you're literally getting someplace that has nothing. There's no infrastructure, no nothing. Water's questionable. You have no idea what's going on when you get there. I mean, coconut surfboards are funny to laugh about, and, you know, setting up a cottage industry of making coconut whiskey is funny, but the reality is that's not gonna work. I mean, most likely in this situation, I think in this situation you're going to end up bugging in, and it's just going to be a matter of trying to hold the area you're in and continually increase the size. Mm-hmm. And go out, and, you know, you're going to have to go beyond those barriers and go scavenging and go foraging. And the good thing to do would be to also then be looking for other survivors. You know, aside from the moral aspect, trying to rescue other people. I mean, every person you find presumably is another pair of hands. And you've always got the threat of worker will throw you back to the zombie. Mm-hmm. I mean, that sounds like motivation to me.
Yeah, hands down.
Yeah. So,
and there's another reason right there. You know, develop your skill sets. Yeah, because if you got skill sets, makes you more valuable to the group.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think Ron once shared with me that's why he got into emergency medicine. He realized if things ever went really bad, nobody was going to use a photographer or a computer programmer.
Right? No doubt.
Yeah. So, but then, I mean, he ended up getting into it and really falling in love with it. But still, I think that definitely raises some other issues of location, because this is an instance where bugging out may be advantageous. Because if you're in an area that's almost impossible to sustain without modern technology, let's take Houston, for example. Okay. The population in Houston was almost non-existent before air conditioning. And then after air conditioning, the population exploded. Because it's pretty darn miserable here.
Yeah.
In the summertime? Oh, yeah. The winter, no, it's great in the winter. I mean,
our summer times are 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, you can almost break it down to 6 months out of the year.
Yeah. We really have summer and fall. We maybe get a 3-week spring. And that's just because it's raining. And then all of a sudden it's hot. And it just keeps getting hotter and hotter and hotter. Yeah. But the humidity really too. But I think if you're in an area, I mean, this at least is survivable in the summer. You just wouldn't want to move very much or very quickly. In most instances, other than right now being in a drought, water's not a big issue here because it's usually raining so much. Mm-hmm. But areas like Phoenix, where you're in the middle of a desert and you shut down any kind of infrastructure.
Yeah, the big water pipeline coming in from California.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what feeds Arizona. I would definitely not want to be in a desert.
Or Nevada. Yeah. Yeah. Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. So I think those are instances where having a place to bug out to would be a pretty good idea. Having a more comfortable. And personally, I think probably the best areas are going to be coastal areas. And traditionally, coastal areas before modern transportation as we know it, it was always coastal areas or river areas. I mean, the main mode of travel was by water. There's so much food in the sea and so much that can be gained from the sea. I mean, also just salt, having to get salt. I mean, we don't think about it because now our food is so overloaded with salt. It's just ridiculous. But salt does actually become a big issue. And for curing meats and just for our diet and our well-being, we do require a lot less salt than we get now, but we do require more salt than we would just get from eating if we were eating wild food. So being able to pull salt out of the sea to cure meats, to just get our daily ration of salt that we all need. We would go back to, because that was a big thing, like in Rome, a lot of those guys were paid in salt. Because it was, so we're back to that issue. So I think any of the coastal areas would be pretty ideal. The only, and no, it's not perfect because there is no perfect place anywhere on this planet to try to survive, because you're going to deal with some kind of inclement issue. But, at the same time, I'm sure people from the Northeast are like, no, I'd much rather deal with the snow than the heat or something. Personally, I'd be like, no, thanks. I'll take the heat over the snow.
As long as I got water, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. So what have we missed?
Talked about a bug out vehicle.
That's true. We have not talked about and this is an instance, and you know a lot more about cars than I do. So, but the one piece that I did know was that you would want a vehicle with more torque than horsepower. Because you're not looking for speed. You're looking for fuel economy and you're looking for torque. Not that those necessarily go well together, but
very true. You know what? Well, you know what? I talked about diesel,
but diesel, and diesel has a longer shelf life than gasoline, untreated.
Correct.
Just speaking in terms of untreated fuel. So
plus, it's much easier to make an equivalent to diesel biologically. Biodiesel.
Yeah, biodiesels. Yeah,
zombie apocalypse. There's plenty of of actual cooking oil laying around all these restaurants.
Oh yeah,
and you can actually separate that out and actually and treat that and actually start up your own fuel.
Yeah,
it's not that difficult.
No, I did watch a long thing on that one day, and it was interesting. I think the hardest part was needing a sort of centrifuge to really purify it out. But even that, you could get a good 100, 200 miles out of a vehicle just on a very simple 15-minute treatment of cooking oils and straining it to get the big stuff out. And you were good to go. I think after about 100 to 100, I think it was 100 to 200 miles, with just basic straining and some basic household chemicals to turn the cooking oil into biodiesel, you did actually clog up the system. But that's still 100, 200 miles that you don't have to take on foot.
Exactly. I mean, that can definitely get you to a bug out location.
Yeah.
Most of us, particularly, are on the rest of the country. Houston, a bug out location for Houston is
a couple hundred miles.
Yeah, at least a couple hundred miles. Most areas you were talking maybe 50 miles.
Yeah,
but in that situation, we're talking diesel, some type of a diesel vehicle will be able to get you out.
Yeah, because you're going to want the power. You're not going to need the speed. You're going to want the distance that diesel typically affords. Let's see what else you're going to want. And diesel is typically a larger vehicle, at least in the United States. I know in Europe they make everything out of diesel, which is fantastic. But for some stupid reason, diesel never really caught on here except for big trucks. So you have that because you're going to presumably need to move a bunch of crap. I mean, if you have the luxury of having a vehicle at that point, you might as well move as much stuff as you can.
And then you can load down. Of course, that's where the torque is going to come in. You'll be able to pull and push a lot heavier weight.
Yeah.
And let's face it, if you're going to run over stuff, torque's the way to go, man.
Yeah. If you've got to run through a horde of zombies, I mean, come on. If you got 100 zombies climbing on your vehicle, you want torque.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is, I know motorcycles often come up in the topic of survival as a bug out vehicle. And I think in a lot of instances, they are actually pretty good. They're very fuel efficient. They're very lightweight, very maneuverable. They can go a lot of places that vehicles cannot go. But in a zombie apocalypse, I don't think I'd really want to be in one.
Nope, sorry, I want 4 doors all the way around.
Yeah, I want 4 doors. I don't want to get bit. I don't care if I turn into a zombie right away or not. I do not want to get bit. I've been bitten by enough rabbits that I don't want to get bit by anything. I think Jen bites me occasionally for no apparent reason. So maybe she's a zombie. Or a little vampire bat. But, and I think that's the other interesting thing, too, is with diesel, you often run into vehicles that have very large tanks, and you have instances where you have, like, trucks that can take the tank in the bed and stuff like that and go really long distances. Or there's the new Jeep that one day will come out that they keep talking about is supposed to come out for 2013 that has, like, a 900-mile range, which is just insane.
One tank of gas.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, even that's just the Grand Cherokee.
Yeah.
Now, they're also going to come out with a Wrangler, smaller tank, that's still 700 miles.
Yeah, that's still really impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, considering my Tahoe gets 270 miles and the fuel light comes on, and I know I got about another 20 miles after that it's going to die.
Dude, we're talking about that. I drive a giant beast.
You do drive a giant beast, but at least yours has an extra tank on it.
Well, purposely, I did that on purpose.
I know you did.
I mean, my God, the damn thing only gets 9 miles a gallon, I drive an older Land Cruiser, and it's, I've got a lift kit on it. It's got big 33s. I've got the capacity to hold 58 gallons worth of fuel. I've got a snorkel on the side of it. It's completely an off-road, it's a hurricane, get the hell out of Dodge vehicle. I'm sure everyone has seen, all the big giant lines on all the freeways coming out of here, and whenever we've had, major calamity, a hurricane or whatever coming through. Well, you need a vehicle that you can go through like trails to get the hell out of the city, because we're so
dense. Yeah.
And for all of us to get out of here, it's just not going to happen. Not on a freeway.
No.
You got to be able to go through ditches and everything else in that type of situation.
Yeah. And I think in the zombie apocalypse, that's very true too. Because if you've got all these freeways clogged up.
Oh, A1 exact case in point scenario.
Yeah.
The zombies are going to get everyone that's stuck on the freeways.
Yeah.
They're going to, ballot it out, shoot it out or whatever on the freeways. And then the zombies are going to take them out because it's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah. Well, plus you now have your freeways are clogged up with all the dead vehicles.
Oh, yeah. And you can't get out of there.
You can't get out of there. So you're going to have to be able to go around them.
You need a vehicle that can
and a
motorcycle.
Yeah. And I mean, a motorcycle could do that, but it goes back to I'd really want 4 doors.
Agreed.
I'd really want 4 doors. And 4 doors you could sleep in. You can, and with a motorcycle, you're pretty much limited to a tent.
Yep. Think of the capacity of gear.
Yeah.
We do all this time, collecting all this gear and, supplies and, and stockpiling food and so on and so forth. I'm sorry, if I'm bugging out,
taking as much of that with me as I can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think we actually managed to cover the zombie apocalypse in exactly an hour.
Oh my God. All right.
Which is pretty awesome. Either next week or the week after that, we'll have to do a farm update since we have some new funny stories to tell.
We do have some funny stories
about we kind of gave one up too quickly with why you were bloodying the nose of a rabbit. I should have made a cliffhanger, tune in 2 weeks to find out why Jason's beating up the rabbits and giving him a bloody nose. Awesome, man. All right. And with that, we wrap up episode 90. Thank you for joining us. Help us bring you better information about preparedness. If you have an author, blogger, podcaster, video blogger, or any other person you'd like to hear on the show, we'd love to have them on. Contact the person you'd like to hear on the show and tell them about In the Rabbit Hole Urban Survival Podcast. Tell them to visit intherabbithole.com/guest. Don't wait. Do it today, and let's grow the show together. In the Rabbit Hole isn't just a podcast and a blog. It's also a community. The best way to connect to that community is by joining me and the other rabbit holers on the In the Rabbit Hole forum at forum.intherabbithole.com. Remember, survival chi starts with community. So come join me at forum.intherabbithole.com and let's talk about all things preparedness. From the Lone Star State, till next time, stay safe and sound.